think we got a great audience here, so full house, so we're going to get started. I'm Stuart Blumenthal. I'm the Intacct Practice Director here at ETHOSystems, and today we're going to be going over the 2024 R3 release that is being released tomorrow, tomorrow night, usually around 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Guys need to be out of the system, and it will kick you out at that point. But if you're doing accounting work on a Friday night, there's got to be something else going on. So anyway, so we'll be going through all the new features today and talking about what the how it's rolled out, some of the things that you're going to have to turn on after this release has been pushed out to everyone at that point. So a couple quick things. This presentation should be around 20-30 minutes. The phone lines are muted. If anyone has any questions, please put the in the chat feed, in the questions features within the GoToWebinar. And then if you want to copy this presentation, which you might want on this one here, you'll see why as we go forward. Put your email address in there, and I'll send it out. I'll send you a link. I'm not gonna be able to send you the whole PowerPoint because it's 50 megs, but I'll be able to send you a link, which you then can download at that point. So we've had a lot of great people request some webinars, and we have come up with our webinar schedule through the end of the year. Next month, September 19th, all these times are 11 o'clock Central Time. We try to keep it very consistent. Is the Intacct Dashboards webinar. A lot of people want to have asked about dashboards. The next month is the WIP management. So this is something that has been released. And we'll talk about it. It was in beta at early adopter with the last release, and now it's been finally released. You're able to do a lot of cool stuff with it. We're going to be doing that on October 10th. Then, hard to believe, 3 months later, we have another release. So that's November 7th, and then our most famous webinar, which is the year-end processing, all the things you need to do to make sure that your Sage Intacct is closed out properly at the end of the year, all our tips and tricks regarding that. So excited about our webinar schedule for the rest of the year. We will be sending this out probably in with links in about 2 weeks to all clients. You obviously got the link since you're on this meeting, but we'll be publicizing those again in about 2 weeks. So didn't miss anything yet. So we'd already talked about what the schedule is for today. And one important thing is that what we're showing you, some of these things will require some going into configuration and turning things on, such as the joint checks. You're going to have to go in and enable that. You might also want to have some help going through the process once. So, schedule time with your primary consultant, or contact support through usually through the dashboard that we modify for our clients. You can put a support ticket in, and they'll help you turn that on. The other one that you will need to turn on is the multi-document feature, which allows you to do multiple purchase orders on one invoice in purchasing, which has been requested time after time, and I'm excited that Sage got that in there. So again, you'll have to turn these things on, and if you have any questions, obviously, again, reach out to support first, or your primary consultant if you're still in a go live process. So in the past, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is joint checks. So in the past, it was really complicated on how joint checks were handled within Sage Intacct. Not really complicated, but it was extra steps to get this done, and it was time consuming. So Sage has put a lot of work into this and made sure that it was able to get done correctly. So what I'm going to show you today is the screenshots and explain how it works a little bit. I actually have an 8-minute video. I'm not going to play that today, but it's part of the PowerPoint. So that's why, again, if you want to copy this PowerPoint, I'll be happy to send it to you. But basically, you can do a lot of things with joint checks. One is you could just simply change the address or the name who the check is going, the bill is going to, but you can also break out how much is being paid to each payee within the system. And that's actually a really cool feature you couldn't do before. So you can say, okay, great, this part is going to go to this person, this part is going to this person. So it's not just simply a name change on the check, but it's actually the amounts being paid to each payee at that point. So in order to turn that on, what you're going to do is you're going to go and do configure accounts payable. You'll notice that this list seems to get longer and longer and longer with every release. They always seem to add new features in here. If it's been a while that you've been in Sage Intacct configuration, you might want to just look at this. And again, if you have a question of like, hey, can I turn this on? Can I not turn this on? Reach out to us. I'd rather have you check with us first than just have you turn it on and find out you blew up the system. But one of the things that we have is that down here, enable joint check. So it's the last feature under enable functionality. That's why I show the whole screen here, and then enable joint checks. So you just turn that on at that point. Once you do that, when you go into a bill, so this is not going to affect accounts payable at all. So, you know, you're like, oh, hey, I'm going to go into accounts payable. No, you continue doing your purchasing the way you're doing it today. And basically what you'll do is that once that invoice from purchasing, because most of your committed invoices come from purchasing, once that gets posted, then you go into the bills, and there's a new feature under here that says joint payees. You'll see another tab. So this is where you could enter in all the payees at that point. You could put in there the name, and then how is it going to print on the check. You could put in the different payees at that point. Then when you actually go to pay bills, there's going to be a new feature. So when you go to pay bills, you have your famous filter by. A lot of people use the project or job number there to just to filter based upon, hey, I'm going to pay for this job. One of the things they've added under the payment methods, the very bottom, is joint check. So at this point here, when you choose that, you'll see all the ones that have a joint check record associated to that, and then you'll be able to choose which how you want to, if you want to allocate it out. You will be, if you have multiple payees, you'll be able to allocate out how much gets paid, and it will print those checks separately at that point. So really cool what they've created. I'm not going to demonstrate it because my system is still in the beta mode, but I wanted to make sure you saw that. And if you need, so that's one of the neat features coming down. So when you get the video, or when you get the PowerPoint, you'll see a video there. Just hit play and you'll be able to see that. I'm going to skip over that. The second thing they have turned on or brought on was to convert multiple documents into a single purchasing transaction. So same thing, you're going to go into configure purchasing at this point here, and you're going to go into under enable functionality. At the very bottom, there's a box that says enable conversion for multiple source documents. So you need to turn that feature on at that point. Again, some other ones, they convert transactions by price. Usually, so you could have that. Some of these other features they've added along the way. So again, look what's in here. They've added some really cool stuff. Once you do that, what you'll end up doing is that you have two ways you could process this. First of all, you would go into, for example, I'm under my vendor invoices, and when you're in there, so you go into your vendor invoices screen, there's something called convert from an existing transaction. If you simply click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to bring up another screen and let you choose all the POs for that. For example, I didn't put a vendor in here, but this is showing me at this point here all the POs that I have pending that I could bring in. Now, what ends up happening is you select, in this case here, the first one, and then if I went back in here, it would then show me any other purchase orders for that vendor. So it is specific. The documents must be the same vendor. You can't have two different POs coming onto one invoice from different vendors, and it has to be from the same transaction definition. So you couldn't have one that came from purchase orders, another one that came from commitments. It has to be from the same transaction definition at that point to show up in there. You can still use the convert feature. So when you go in and you see a list of your purchase orders, you can simply click on convert, like you have, go into that PO, and then again, you will be able to at that point say convert from an existing transaction. It's still there, and then it will just show any other purchase orders for that vendor with the same transaction definition. So you can go about it two different ways. You can either just do the way that you've been doing it with the convert and then just add those on, or go into the invoice and just simply convert from an existing transaction, click on that. So there's a couple different ways of handling that, but those will all bring them in. And then again, as I mentioned, those are kind of the two side notes on that. So I got a video, I'll play that. When you get the PowerPoint, if you want the PowerPoint, I'll play that, and you can play that and see how it works. The next thing I mentioned at the beginning of this PowerPoint presentation, or the beginning of this webinar, so WIP management is now generally available. So what this basically means is that you can put in there to track your over and under billings, show predicted profit at the end of your project, things like that, and it's going to create the journal entries for you at that point in the system, and then reverse them out so it accrues any of the WIP processes at the end of the reporting period. Basically, the values are being pulled from projects, from your estimates, from your project contracts, but it's also going to be looking at your job-to-date costs from general ledger and your job-to-date billings from the general ledger. So it looks at all those different things in the system, and then you'll again be able to go in there, report upon what you've been doing, and then it will create any of the over/under billing journal entries at that point. There are some configuration aspects of this where you're going to have to assign, when you set up a project, you have to assign it to be part of the WIP schedule. So just FYI, that is something that you're going to have to make sure about. So when you go into project, you have to actually assign it to the WIP management feature, and then at that point it will start showing up in your reports and stuff like that. There are also some setup screens that you need to go into in configure purchase order. So under the configure purchase order area, there's a whole area of WIP management where you have to specify the GL accounts that the system should be looking at. So this, I will say, will take usually about an hour, less than an hour, but just budget an hour to just simply configure this. It also is using your reporting periods in the system. So it's also, you have to make sure all your reporting periods are up to date through the periods that you're wanting to do that. So it does use the reporting periods within Sage Intacct. So that's what we're doing in the webinar. There's also some, we've got a couple of videos out there, but it is a very nice feature. This is something that Sage has been wanting to put into the original Sage 300 product, and it's not there. So this is actually something that is not in 300, but it is in Sage Intacct that people have been wanting. One of the other things that they have been doing is that they have been adding new ICRW reports. That's the interactive custom report writer. So under the library of reports, so if you go into ICRW, there's a little button in the upper right-hand corner, and in the last release, they've added some reports. In this R3, they've added even more. So project cost entries, WIP billing, GL detail, the CFO import worksheet, the WIP cost GL. You'll see these are pretty much all around WIP reports. So I would tell you, first of all, these reports were written specifically. So if they're not producing the data you want, they might be coded based upon a process that you're not using the system, or they're just, the way you've set up your system might require a little bit of tweak on these reports. So that's something that we can definitely do. But there are a lot of reports that they've been adding through the ICRW, and we're excited by that. So feel free again to add these to your system. They all end with a lot of them you'll see the word CRE, or they all have the word CRE at the end. So you know that those are the ones that you imported in from the library. So it makes it a little bit easier to know which ones were brought in. So again, they all end with the word CRE in the name of the report itself. See if there's any questions in the meantime before I go to the next slide. Don't see any. One of the other features they've added is the usage insights. So this is kind of cool. So you can, so off the admin menu, so you have to be in the admin area. I don't know how many people have been going into this lately, but usually you go into this when you do your implementation or you set up a new user. Then you have your subscriptions, and then they down here they've got usage metrics, your subscription usage. Then they also have your API errors and stuff like that. But the new feature they added was the usage insights. And that actually does include some of the API stuff now. So you can see how many active customers you have, how many active vendors you have throughout the years. Things that we like, and our team was pointing this out, what modules are you subscribed to, any add-ons that we should be aware of down here, and then login of users, but here's your user count. So this comes out like, hey, how many users do I have? Here's your current user counts, and it starts giving you this information. You can break down based on date ranges and stuff like that, and then there's some additional tabs up here. But this is something that wait till Monday and take a look at kind of a 360 view of how things are going from that perspective. One of the other changes, I know that a lot of people on this call are usually the administrators of Sage Intacct. They did change the user screen. Again, I know last time we got some calls because they've added multiple email addresses, and that caused a little bit of confusion. You got to set the contact or associated with the contact at that point. But a couple of changes they have made. One of them is that for those who've been using project manager users, there's now an additional user type called a construction manager user. Those are more, again, similar roles to project manager, but it has rights with having to do with Sage CM, the Sage Construction Management feature, module, or not module, but it's product. So just, I don't have a lot of detail on it today, but if you see that, don't simply click on that because then it's a different license type, but I wanted you, that's something that you'll be getting some more information on that construction manager user. In addition to that, the roles are now not on the top up here where you have to, you click on the next tab, so they're down below. So just FYI, your roles at the bottom. So I know that as they change these screens, sometimes people kind of go, so we just want to make sure you're prepared for that. And pretty much last but not least, one of the new features that they're adding to the system, and again, this is a slower rollout, but we've had a lot of requests for it, is the ability to enable sequencing by fiscal year. So for example, and have it do it automatically. So some people want to have the year in their sequencing numbers. Right now, it's only available for those sequences for contracts, fixed asset management, which is the new fixed asset module, and the general ledger module. So those sequences are not available yet for order entry or commitments, purchases, or vendors or customer IDs, but those are in the works. But again, wanted to make sure you saw that. If you want this turned on, you have to contact us or contact Sage support directly. Most of the time, everyone goes through us, and we have to put a support ticket into Sage. You have to go in and you need to put a support ticket into Sage, and Sage has to enable it through the back end. So there is not an interface for that today. So just keep that in mind. So with that, I've been going for about 20 minutes. I want to make sure that there was no other questions. There are a lot of other features they've added. There's been some tax features they've added. You'll see some stuff that they've been doing for globalization of this product. So those things have been released. There's some other areas. I have just been, what I wanted to make sure we focused on today was primarily the construction things that our construction clients are focused on. So I did not go into any of the nonprofit or some of the other areas that some of the clients, these other clients might or might not have gone into. So just wanted to make sure everyone was completely, transparent. There are other changes. I wanted to make sure we went over the main ones today. I will look for any last questions, but otherwise, I do want to thank you for your time. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions you might have regarding this. And again, I will make sure that you guys get our webinar schedule sent out in the next couple of weeks for the rest of the year. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending today. Try to keep it short and sweet.